Hey guys, it's Tila, and today we'll be painting in a free flower heart stamp. There's a link in the video description to that, and after it's painted, we'll be printing it at home so you can use it as a Valentine's Day card. I am using a canvas that's size 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels at 300 dpi. I work in the display P3 color profile, but if you're on an older iPad and don't have access to that, then the default sRGB color profile is perfectly fine. The first thing I'm going to do is go grab a reference image of flowers in a color scheme that I really like that I'd like to use in my flower heart. So I'm going to jump into Pinterest. I have a flower reference photos board, which I'll leave a link to in the video description as well. And if you just toggle down here a little bit, this is the one that I want to use. And I will leave a link to this specific image as well. And what we want to do in order to save it onto our iPad is you just hit the three little dots right here and then choose download image. And then it's saved to your camera roll, so then you can import it into Procreate. So we'll head back into Procreate now. I'm just swiping up and then tapping on Procreate. And in order to grab that image, all I have to do is hit the wrench, add category, and then insert a photo, and it'll be right in my Photos app. All right, here's that image. I'm going to crop it a little bit so I've got a little more room to work with here. So all I'm doing is bringing it to both corners, cropping it just so I can see the colors that I want to use. And then I'll make it a little bit larger because I'll be color sampling the different colors from this image for my flower heart stamp. So I'll just tuck this up here into the corner and then create a brand new layer. I'm going to change my color to black. So just double tap where black is. And then head into the free flower heart stamps. I gave these away last week to my newsletter subscribers. If you want to be the first to receive freebies from me, I'll leave a link right in the video description to that sign up, as well as this free set of stamp brushes. So here they are, and I'll be using flower heart number 1 for this. So I've got that selected, and then you can either stamp it in with your stylus or your finger. I always like using my finger for this, and that's a little small, so I need to increase the size, stamp it in. And that feels good. I want it to fill the space as much as I can because I want a really large painting. That way I can use it for a variety of applications. If you start small and you have to increase the scale later, you're going to degrade your edge resolution. So you'll always want to create your art in Procreate at as large of a size that you think you would ever use it at. This is just one of those things with a pixel-based program to keep in mind. So I've got my stamp in here. I'm going to reduce the opacity. I don't need it quite so dark. And now we can begin painting. I'm going to create a brand new layer right above my heart stamp. And now I'm going to head into my acrylic lovers brush set, and I'll be using the streaky paintbrush for nearly all of this. I just love the streakiness that this brush has. If you own my gouache lovers brush set and would like to use that instead, you can use the streaky semi-transparent brush. That brush also works very similar to this, or you can use any other brushes you'd like. You don't have to use these brushes, but I just love the streaky quality that you get. It's perfect for petals. So I want to show you what that looks like, and now we can start painting. So we've got our image that we can color sample from. And I'm going to start with this really big sunflower right here. So I need to move my image out of the way. I'm going to bring it up to the top so I can see the colors really well, and just move it to the right of my big sunflower. And now on my brand new layer, this is going to be my first painting layer. I've got my streaky paintbrush selected. And what I like to do when you have a multi-petal layered flower, like the sunflower, I always work from the back to the front, and it makes your front petals cover up any irregularities that you may have painted previously, and it just creates a much cleaner look. So it's a little strange to have your mind go from back to front when you're painting these, but you get used to it really quickly. So for this one, I'm going to grab a darker yellow. Since I'm working my way from back to front, it's going to get lighter as you get closer to the viewer. So to color sample, I'm just going to hold this little icon over here and then grab one of my darker yellows. So I think this one looks pretty good. And then I'm just looking for petals that are in the way back. If you've taken my flat florals in Procreate class, then this process will be very familiar to you. I go much more in depth with this entire process there, but I'm kind of giving you the Spark Notes version here. And it totally works for this, especially with the streaky paintbrush. So you can see the streaky paintbrush, it's also pressure sensitive. If I go light pressure, heavy pressure, I can get these beautiful streaks. So I try and do it all in one stroke. If you can't, that's fine too. You can always add in an extra stroke where needed. This one's going to require 2 strokes. And I'm just working my way around, and I'm paying attention to the furthest back petal. Like this one is behind this one, so this is the one that I need to paint. I've got those furthest back petals painted in now, and I made sure they were all the smaller ones. Like I could have painted one of these ones over here, but then it would have called too much attention to it. So I want all the darkest ones towards the back, so they're taking up the smallest amount of space. Now that I have those painted in, it's time for me to paint a lighter color on petals that are overlapping those furthest back ones. So I'm going to create a brand new layer. I'm going to choose a lighter yellow. So I'm coming back to my source image and I'm going to hit that little icon over here and then toggle over. And you can see the bottom color right here. It's really hard to show you, but the bottom yellow, that's the color I currently have. So when I go over a brighter yellow, you can see the color comparison. See that circle? The top part is super bright yellow, and then the bottom part is that dark kind of mustardy yellow that we just used. So that's how I make sure that I'm choosing a lighter color yellow for my next layer that's coming forward. The bottom one is your previously used color. So I don't want to go a huge amount because I've got a lot of petals, a lot of layers to paint in. So I'm just going to make sure that it's a slight nudge into a brighter version. So this one feels pretty nice right here. So I'm just going to keep that one selected. I'm on a brand new layer, but it could be a little bit difficult to see where you're at. So I actually like reducing the opacity of my previously painted layer. That way I can see everything a lot clearer. So I'm just going to reduce this opacity. Don't worry, we'll bring it back once we're done, but this just helps that painting process move right along. And now that you know this process, this is what we're going to use for the rest of the piece. So this part's a little slow getting familiar with the process, but after that, everything goes super smoothly and pretty quickly. So now we can begin painting larger petals. So this will be the first one I paint. You can see I've got these two that overlap this one. It won't always work perfectly. You may have to make adjustments and decide that a petal on the sketch needs to be further forward than it is in the sketch. But, you know, it's your artwork. You can make adjustments as needed. There's nothing wrong with that. So this is one of those situations that I'm finding myself in. This one overlaps this one, but this one kind of overlaps that one. But because it's just a very small overlap, I think I'm going to have this one overlap this one and this one. So I can have a more even disbursement of this color throughout this flower. And you can see those really pretty streaks coming through here. We are ready to move on to our next layer. So I'm just going to reduce the opacity, create a brand new layer right above it. And now we need to select a lighter color than the one that we just had. So I'm going to hold this little icon again and toggle over and just compare the brightness to the other half of that circle like we talked about. So I don't want it to be too bright because I still have a ways to go, but that feels nice. So now I can begin painting any that are overlapping the one that I just painted. All right, we're in really good shape. I think we only need to do 2 layers because I have these two that are right next to each other. So I'm going to have a slightly brighter one for this one, but the rest of them I can all paint in the same color. Or you can just choose some to not paint if you want to have more than one petal that's that brighter color. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reduce the opacity again, create a brand new layer, select a brighter yellow color again. We're getting to the end. Since we know we have 2 layers left, we can decide how bright we want to get now. So I just need to get a little brighter than what I've got. Let's see. And then I need to get kind of super bright. So I like this one. And then I'll paint just a few of these ones. I'm going to leave the opacity alone for this one, create a brand new layer, and then grab that brighter yellow. So this will be my brightest yellow. All right, we filled all the petals on our sunflower, so now we can increase all of their opacity so we can see what it really looks like now. So this part's exciting. I'm going to bring up each one of these 3, and then we can preview it by just turning off the sketch or the stamp layer. So I'm going to turn off the visibility of that, and now we can see how pretty that sunflower is, and honestly, how quickly that came together just by working from back to front and just adjusting the brightness every time you moved a layer forward. So That part's all set. We're going to follow the exact same process for the remaining flowers we've got, but I want to show you how to paint in a stamen first. So for this one, I'm going to turn my stamp back on, and I can group all of my petal layers together. So I can just call this one Sunflower Petals. And the stamen's going to sit on top of these petals. I can turn off the visibility of these petals for now. That way I can see the contour that I need to follow for the stamen. So create a brand new layer, and we're just going to look at what colors we have to work with. And I really like this one. I think I want to go a little bit lighter of a brown because this is reading a little too black to me, but we'll see what color we grab. So I'm going to just color select around here. So this is a really rich brown, really pretty. I'm just going to lighten it a little bit. So in my color wheel, I'm just going to grab the circle and move it up a little bit. And then I've got my brand new layer. I'm still using my streaky paintbrush, and I can just follow the contour around and then fill it in. I'm going to fill this entire piece in. I'm just going to layer color for the very center. So there we go. I can turn that off now, create a brand new layer, and now I'm going to grab that richer brown color. So I don't want it to be completely black because it'll cause the viewer to be drawn directly to the stamen, and I want them to take in the entire piece. I just don't want it to be too dark right there. So now I'm just going to paint around here, fill that in. And now we can create some contrast where the seeds are in the middle. So if I turn on both of these, you can kind of see what that looks like. So now let's add in our seeds, and we don't have to necessarily color drop for this. We can just take our existing light brown color, and then I can just make it a little brighter, a little redder. I can decide what I want to do here. And I'm just going to lighten it up a little bit and increase the saturation. So I'm heading to the top right because this is my most saturated version of this color. And I'm reducing the amount of gray. So I'm lightening it up and I'm increasing the intensity. So I'm just moving it over here to create that contrast. It's subtle, but it'll still be noticeable, which the seeds are. So it'll work really well here. I'm going to turn off both of these layers, create a brand new layer right above so I can see where my dots are. You do not have to paint all these dots. They're here if you want them. If not, just draw them however you'd like. So let's see. I think the streaky paintbrush, it's definitely too large right now, but I want to see if my sketching paint marker will give me a better result. And this feels a little bit better for seeds. So I think I'm going to stick with this brush for the seeds. So I'm just going to pop them in here and then I will be right back. Okay, let's preview everything together now. So I'm going to turn on the rest of my stamen. That feels really good with the seeds. I am noticing that I drew the outline a little bit wider, so I want to make sure that I've got seeds that go right to the edge. So I'm just going to fill in these gaps. Okay, and now let's preview it with the petals as well. We can turn that group on, turn off our stamp. We can even turn off our reference. And that feels really good. I do see that I've got a few seeds that are overlapping the very center, and I don't want that to happen. It looks like a mistake here. So I'm just going to grab that darker layer and just drag it above my seeds layer. And now that problem is solved. So we've got a sunflower, and now we're going to utilize that exact method for all of our other flowers. So I'll turn on some music and you can watch the process unfold, but I'm doing the exact same thing that we just did for this flower. Before I start the next flower, I am going to group all of these layers together so I have everything really organized as I work. So I can just group this and then call this one large sunflower. The next flower I'm going to do is just this little one down here. I need to turn off my sunflower group to see if my sunflower sits behind it or on top of it according to the sketch. So I can just turn off the large sunflower and I can see that this flower has petals that actually overlap the sunflower petals. So I need to make sure that these layers for this flower are above that group. So here's my group. I'm going to create a brand new layer, and now I can start painting this one. Let me move my reference image out of the way a little bit. And I want to use like this peach color because these two next to each other looks really pretty. So I'm going to use colors from this flower for this flower, following the same process. So I'll put the music on and I will be back.
Yesterday, there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy we go, easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all.
I've got that bottom pink flower completed, so now I'm going to move on to the next one, which is going to be the same process again. It's going to be this top one right here, and then we'll fill in the other smaller supporting florals after that. So this top one, I want a nice punch of color, so I'm going to use, I think, some of these darker pinks over here. So following the same process, but using that darker pink this time.
Dreamy, breezy we go, easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all. A bigger scale the world inhales as we go. I wouldn't want it any other way, no. Dreamy, breezy we go, easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all. Dreamy, breezy we go, easy.
My largest flowers are complete now, so now I can move on to my smaller supporting florals, and these ones will be far simpler. There's fewer elements involved, and the stamens are simpler too. So I'm going to use a mixture of blues and purples here, so they're not quite as punchy. I want all the large ones to call the most attention, so I chose the most vibrant colors for those. And now these ones are going to kind of sit in the background and support those larger florals. So this one over here will be the first one that I work on. I can turn off that top pink one that I just finished. And this one looks like it sits about the same as this one, so I'm just going to create a brand new layer up at the top. And for this one, I'm going to do kind of a medium blue color. So I'm looking at shades in this flower right here from my reference image. So I'll pull blue here, and I'm following the same process. It's just fewer layers will be needed for these ones. So because we have fewer petals, I can see right away which ones are sitting in the back. And if you have a situation where it feels like each subsequent one is overlapping the one before it, then just make your own call at which of those petals will sit above the ones that are next to it. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll put on some music and I will be back.
I look into your eyes, I see we're out of time. I guess no one's to blame, nobody crossed the line. I guess we couldn't see, somehow we couldn't feel. Maybe we rose too fast, maybe we got too high. But I remember days I wonder.
I'm going to move on to my next little one right here that's tucked behind a lot of flowers. So I'm going to put this one at the very bottom. So just above the stamp layer, I'm going to create a brand new layer, and I'm going to pick and choose from some of the purple. Since this is further back, I want it to appear just a little bit darker. So I'm going to choose some purples, and I'll finish this one off quick, and then I'm going to move straight into this one over here, following this same process, and I'm going to choose one of these blues over here. With these flowers. It's a more pastel-y blue than the blue that we just painted. And then we'll be back to do the berries, the foliage, and then we'll be all set to get it ready to print.
Will be no hard goodbyes, thank God we're civilized. Be on our separate ways as we fade into gray. lost the way you used to feel. Maybe we rose too fast, maybe we got too high. Yeah, I do remember tears and the laughter. How could we fall so fast and let us go? It's time to surrender now that it's ended. Nothing to say, 'cause guess we've said it all. Now why do we care to dream? Guess we wanna.
I've got all my flowers completed now, so now we just need to add in our berries and then we can move on to our foliage. For the berries, I'm going to repeat some of the yellow color that I've got in my sunflower. That way everything feels a little more balanced since it's so heavy on the left side with such a large flower. So I'm just going to color sample one of the yellows that I already have over here. I think that one's a good one. And then create a brand new layer all the way at the very bottom. And I'm just going to paint in these berries. And I can change up the color too as I paint them. So I can grab a different yellow. There's only a few of them. And then I need to paint in their stems. So I'm going to create a brand new layer, drag it underneath those berries, and then switch my color to a darker green. I'm going to just pull from around here. And then I'm going to switch my brush to the sketching paint marker just because I want that nice thick line coming down. All right, we are in really good shape now to finish everything off with our foliage. So I looked at this foliage and I want to pull a little bit of blue from like the eucalyptus here and then some of the leafy greens. I want a variety of greens. So I want really dark green behind everything to support it and push those bright colors forward more. So I'm looking at medium and light greens, and then I'm going to reserve my darkest green for the very, very back to fill in any gaps that I've got in the middle. So I'll show you what that looks like. Let's first take care of our lighter greens, our mid greens, and then we'll add some blues here and there just for a little extra variety. So I want this branch coming over here. I want this to be a lighter green color. And I like this one down here. So I'm going to grab this green. I'm going to make sure that I've got my streaky paintbrush selected again. And I'm going to create a brand new layer behind everything. Let me group my two berry layers together. Just want to stay super organized. When you have a bunch of elements like this, it's so important to take that extra time to label your groups and your layers. It makes things so much easier to find when you need to go back, if you need to go back. Okay, creating a brand new layer right above the stamp layer. I've got my streaky paint, and this is a pressure sensitive brush, so I can just go light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. That brush size is a little large, so let's come down a little. That feels good. Now I'm going to add some mid greens to the center. So these leaves that I see in the center, those will be mid greens. And then these external ones that have the little vein details, I'm thinking I'm going to do some like slate blue colors for those ones. So I'll take care of the middle one first. So I'm going to grab like one of these greens and create a brand new layer right underneath the one that we just painted. I still have my streaky paintbrush selected, and I'm just going to paint these in. And I'm not going to do them all this color because I want some variety in here. So I'm just going to paint a few of them this color, and then we'll switch to another mid-range green. So that one's good. I'm going to keep them all on the same layer too because they're kind of all in the same place anyway. This part's feeling a little empty, so I'm just going to take some creative liberties and add a few more leaves back here. We have a few leaves left on the perimeter of our heart, so we'll take care of those next. I'm going to create those right above the layer that we just did. So these mid-range ones, because these ones are blue, they're a little more special. I'll create a layer right above that one for those. I'll turn on my reference image again and just grab some of the blues from the eucalyptus. So I'm going to do a few different blues. I'm not going to keep them all the same. All the leaves are painted in, so now we just need to add that really dark green supporting color to lift everything forward. So I'm going to grab my darkest green that I can find. I don't want it to be black though, so just be aware of that when you're choosing. We want one that's dark but still looks green. And I think that one feels really good. So I can turn off my reference image now, and this one's going to go at the very bottom of everything. So right above the stamp layer, and we just want to fill in the gaps here to make it feel really full and really lush. So I'm just scribbling in, but you'll notice that some of your transparent or lighter colors, it will show through on them. So I'm just a little extra careful when I'm going around those. I don't go so far into those petals because I want those streaky textures to show through. Okay, let's look at everything without our stamp layer on just to see if we have any gaps. I'm seeing a gap right here. So I'm just fixing any little white areas that I see because I don't want to call attention to those. All right, we've got our flower heart all set, but if you want to print this out and create a Valentine's Day card out of it, I want to show you how to do that really quickly and very easily. So I've got this image all set. I'm going to turn off my white background layer and I'm going to 3-finger swipe, choose copy all, and now I'm going to head into a printable canvas template. This is a folded card that will end up being 5 inches by 3.5 inches. It's called a 4-bar, if you want to look that up. This is all ready to go. This is one of my printable canvas templates. If you want to try one of these out for free, I have a 4-inch by 6-inch one, and I'll leave a link to that in the video description as well. I don't want mine to be landscape orientation. I want it to be portrait. So all I have to do is rotate my canvas, and now I've got a portrait card. And because I just copied all of my artwork, I can paste it in, and you can see on this template, we've got our trim marks, we've got our outline, our bleed, and our artwork layer. So I want to make sure I'm pasting it in here. 3-finger swipe and then choose paste, and it will paste it in. And since we painted this nice and big and beautiful, now when we reduce the size, it will compact those pixels to make it very, very clear instead of increasing the size and reducing that edge quality. So that is why we made the decisions that we did. And now I'm just going to fit this into the area where it needs to go. I could add lettering, I could add typography, I could add textures or color to the background. I just want to show you how to set this up so you can print it. So I've got my artwork on here. The next thing I need to do before I can print it is in my layers, you'll see it says outline turn off. So we need to turn off that layer. We need to turn off the bleed because we don't want that as part of our print, but we need our trim marks. This is where it's going to show us where we need to score so we can fold our card and where we can cut. And now I can print this out. So this works with any 8.5 by 11 or A4 size paper. I've got double-sided matte photo paper loaded up in my home inkjet printer scanner combo. I'll leave a link to that too if you want to see it. I love that printer. Super basic, but it works amazing. And that double-sided matte photo paper just makes the print quality come out so, so good. To print, we need to export this. So we'll come over to our wrench and hit share and then choose TIFF so we can have the highest quality print on this. So after you hit that, you'll come to the screen and down here, choose print. You'll want to make sure that your printer is selected. So I'm going to select my Canon. And then my paper size, this canvas template, as I mentioned, works for any letter size or A4. So I need to make sure that I change this to letter size. Head back to options, don't hit print yet. And then under media and quality, you want to choose best. And then under media type, choose photo. Head back, and I just like doing a quick double check to make sure everything looks right here. So I've got the right printer, I've got the right number of copies, print and color, letter size, and then photo and best quality. And then I can hit print. We've got our print all ready to go. So now we just need to cut it out. I have a ruler. I've got a scoring tool, but you don't really need one of these. You can either use the back of your blade, your cutting tool, or a pen that doesn't work, works really well, or a bone folder. And then I've got a utility knife. I find these to be much safer than an X-Acto knife, so that's what I use. So I'll first score where the score line is. And now we can just follow the cut lines. So I don't cut all the way through the paper when I'm cutting because then I'll lose my marks because I'll just cut off my additional marks. So you just want to make sure that you don't cut all the way to the edge. So line these ones up first and just work my way around the card. And then all we have to do is fold it. And we've got a cute little mini Valentine's Day card. Links to everything for this tutorial are right in the video description, including all the freebies, the free Procreate for Beginners course. Everything's just right in the video description. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.